Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to what will be the final week of the season here at Flux Motorsport. I'm going to be your host for this evening. My name's Murphy, and we come at an absolutely prestigious circuit. Everybody will be able to recognise it just from the images on your screen, but of course the touring cars in their final round come to the Azure coast in the beautiful city of Monaco for what is going to be a very challenging evening for our drivers. Just finishing up free practice and about to get the qualification session underway, and as you can see, our championship leader Profubi currently leading out the grid, but you can see how close it is with just 1/100th of a second separating him and the console just in free practice. Let's get ourselves over to the qualification round and see what these guys are made of. Get myself retired, get into the monitor, and let's get a look on track. We'll go straight over to Profubi, I think, considering he is the championship leader and the current fastest lap around this circuit with a 1:38.389 in that free practice session. I think that's pretty much as quick as any of the drivers have been throughout all of their practices. You can see plenty of people trying to get out on track. There's going to be heavy amounts of traffic, which is definitely going to slow some people down. It's going to be a real challenge to get out there and get a hot lap in without some of the other cars potentially impeding you. As we see now, half of the grid out on the field. That is Jack de Menzies just ahead of Profubi's yellow and blue Emochi livery. And whilst we get these underway, let me give a bit of a roundup summary of the championship so far. As mentioned, Profubi is top of the championship. He's currently got a 33-point lead to Wadge at the moment. Just to let you know how that transpires, because we're only running with a 15-car grid here, the minimum amount of points that you can pick up for finishing the race will be 2 points. So with that said, we're also missing another driver, which means that finishing at the very back of this pack in 14th position will get you 3 points. That means that Wadge will need a pole position, the race victory, a fastest lap, and for Profubi to finish right at the very back of the grid in order to lose out on this championship, and then it'll go to the statistics to determine who will be the Flux Motorsport Touring Car Champion for 2021 Season 1. As mentioned though, Wadge has done very well indeed throughout the second half of this season especially. He's currently trailing Profubi by 33 points on 178. Jack de Menzies is right behind him as well with a 17-point deficit sat on 161 points. The fourth place at last week's race at Catalonia certainly put him in good stead. Looks as though we're just about to start our hot laps here. And into turn one, little clip with the wall there from Profubi. Going to have to watch out for invalidated laps, for heavy collisions with the walls. But looks as though Lecky's also riding down that barrier, just making a bit of a mistake coming out of turn one, and it looks as though that is going to put an end to Profubi's lap there. Let's have a look over to the console and his BMW. Very tail happy, this BMW. I think it might be optimised for this sort of circuit to have rear wheel drive, but then again I've been proven wrong when I've made these sort of statements before. Certainly going to be able to get round some of these really tight twisty sections like turn 6 here. You can see how much quicker it's able to take that hairpin compared to the front wheel drive Renaults. Just has to watch out for any understeer through some of the slower corners and any oversteer through some of the much quicker corners, especially the tunnel. Looks like he manages to avoid that barrier now and into the braking. They come down into Nouvelle Chicane. Riding over those curbs, you might want to be careful over that. Looks as though it was just inbounds from the console. And I'll try and not describe this circuit to many of you. I'm sure anybody that is a motorsports fan knows this one, whether or not it's for its open wheel heritage or for any of the other classes that tend to hoon around here in a very special weekend in the racing calendar. Let's see where this lap is going to lead our former touring car champion. It's not going to be the case for season 1 this year. But the console is just about to come across the line now. In fact, it looks as though he's invalidated his lap. He's going to have to go around that one more time. Meanwhile, Spankmeyer is currently in pole position with a 139.486. I didn't see many of those come in early doors in the free practice, so Spankmeyer's obviously got it dialed in. I know that he's been doing some practice with his teammate in the form of Wardy. So obviously they've got that one locked up, and there is that oversteer that I mentioned on the BMW. The console just struggling to keep that one in check, it seems, but avoided contact with the wall. It should still be a lap, provided that he can bring it across the line without making any further contacts. You can see there as well, just in the background before the camera panned away, that was Jack Menzies just locking up the rear wheels, it seems, on the way into turn 7. This is going to be a seriously tricky circuit to try and get around. We're going to have to be capitalising on mistakes, so a good qualification position is going to be vital for this. It's also going to stand you in good stead as well to make sure that you avoid any of the accidents that might happen. I am almost certain that there's going to be at least one accident in the opening laps of this race. It's a very, very tricky circuit, even at the best of times, with a high downforce car inside the touring cars, just making it even more of a challenge. It looks as though the console might well have just invalidated another one with a little bump. I think it was on the approach to Rasgas, actually. Let's jump on board with somebody else. At the moment, looks as though one of our standing drivers for one race only, Harry, has got himself up into 3rd position. Al Axon in the with a car change into the Merc last week, and looks as though he's currently making that work. Very consistent car, the Mercedes, usually overlooked for the championship season. Usually not really the quickest when it comes to rather open circuits, but it does have a handling advantage. Can usually keep its pace through the corners pretty well, and Al Axon's obviously making that work for him. Let's see whether or not he can get into the high 139s, otherwise he is going to start slipping down that grid. And Lecky comes in with a 138.2. That's enough for pole position, and it's come from absolutely nowhere. He was really struggling, it seemed, in free practice. I wonder whether or not he's just got himself a bit of clean track and therefore been able to really lay down the benchmark. That is actually quicker than what we had in free practice as well, and Lecky will be ecstatic with that to get a pole position, especially after his positive finish last week, getting onto the podium at Catalunya. It has put him in a good place in the championship standings compared to where he was at the halfway point this season. He's managed to claw his way back up into 7th position, and he's within touching distance, it seems, of Al Axon and potentially Kovkarl, depending on what Kovkarl can do today. 12 minutes and a half remaining inside the session. Let me know your predictions for this one. Also worth mentioning that we've got 6 other nail-biting championships to come, especially in the GTE Championship, the American Supercars, that features on Friday night. Real close battle in that one. You'll be able to join our American team live at around about midnight on Friday night for that. If you're watching in the UK, obviously adjust to your time zones, 8 PM Eastern Standard Time if you're watching over the pond. The standings in that one, the top 3 drivers currently separated by 2 points. So it's going right down to the wire in the GTE Championship. GT1's also going to feature, as they always do, on Thursday night. Lecky will be back in with that one with Mick Toasty, and you'll be able to watch them hooning it around the world famous Imola. And then we can see Al Axon just getting a little bit wrong. Time to return to the pits. Let's focus on our championship leader as we continue on with the championship summary. The GTEs for that final race will be taking it around Texas Motor Speedway's road course. That's going to be a bit of a night race as well, so something a little bit different. You can watch that one under the floodlights out there in Texas. So Pro Fubby just getting himself a little bit of distance from the car ahead of him. LMP2s conclude their championship season around the Daytona Road Circuit, and then on Saturday evening, around about midnight UK time, as mentioned, and then it'll be 8 PM Eastern Standard Time. The Indy cars take on Texas Motor Speedway Oval. That is also going to be a night race. Sundays concludes the GT3 Championship. You can join the console and McToasty in for that one. As we see Pro will be there just letting somebody on a hot lap get themselves past. I think that might have been Wadge actually that just passed him. A little look, he's currently struggling for pace in 10th, and yeah, he's just come around turns 17 and 18, about to begin this one again. Let's see if it's an improvement from him. It is indeed, straight up there into the front row. Just tuck it in behind Lecky for now, 2/10 behind. But definite improvement from Wadge there, obviously paying dividends. That move over from Pro Fubby, very sporting indeed. And halfway through this qualification session, improvements can still be made. But as I was saying, the GT3s will take on Bathurst. You'll be able to join McToasty and the console for that live 8 PM UK time, which is around about 1 PM Eastern Standard at the moment. And, oh, in fact, I beg your pardon, it will actually resolve back, because we are actually going into daylight savings time this weekend, I believe. Could well be wrong. I'm known for it when it comes down to dates, but please do check your time zones. Either way, it will be 8 PM UK time. Stock cars will conclude the week and, of course, the championship season, rounding up what has been an absolutely thrilling event for the first time that we've run 7 championships, and it will be the stock cars at Texas Motor Speedway Oval. Once again, another night race, so night races all round in our American championships. Get back over to Pro Fubby though, and keep an eye out on him for the final 9 minutes. Let's also bring up the track map as well. Let's see where he is in terms of other cars on track. Looks as though he's got plenty of room ahead of him. It's going to prove pretty useful. Just having a look there over into turns 6, 7 and 8. We've got a huge bunch of traffic. One mistake there could prove costly, but they will be able to get a draft. It looks as though they're just going through the tunnel, and Pro Fubby makes an improvement. It's not enough to get onto the back of Wadge yet, but certainly moving his way up there. Lecky is still in pole position though. 2/10 separating him and Wadge. Pro Fubby in 3rd, Spankmeyer in 4th. Jack Menzies in 5th. Good bit of pace from him. Then Booth Jumbo in 6th position. Harry in 7th. Alaxon in 8th. Wardy in 9th. Kovkarl 10th, Porsche Man 11th place, Old Smoky in 12th with Green Gaming in 13th. The console yet to set a lap in 14th position. Let's go and have a look over to that BMW actually. Just coming through Novell. We'll try and get his split time. I'm pretty sure there's a split marker just as we come through the docks here. It might just be after Piscine. Could be wrong though. In fact, I can see it on my map. Definitely past this one. We're going to have to wait until he crosses the line. Comes through Raskas, and there is that rear-wheel drive advantage, looking really tight through there. And this looks like a quick lap. I don't know how the first part of it went, but certainly very quick through the final sector. Let's have a look where it puts him, and it is straight up there into pole position for the console. Looking to try and make amends from that 14th place finish. Absolute misery for his first time round in the BMW at Catalunya, but that is a very quick lap indeed. 200ths quicker than Lecky, and Lecky will be seething that it's that close. I think he'd rather be beaten by a couple of tenths than it be that close up. And Pro Fubby has just raised the bar even higher. 138.138 from him. That's taken pole position away from the clutches of the console. The console's going to have to try and dig a little bit deeper if he wants to try and get hold of that top spot. Lecky's now been demoted down into the 2nd row, and Wadge is going to be joining him alongside there. So Old Smoky still yet to set a lap. He's still sat in the pits as well. He's not doing himself any favours sat in the pit lane, unless he wants to try and avoid any of that, and he's going for a purposeful back of the grid start. It's certainly not going to help though, because if there is an accident ahead of you, you are almost certainly going to get caught up in it. So 6 minutes remaining inside qualification. Whilst we're tuning into the console as he takes it around the final sector for another time. Looks as though he's just coming up to, is it traffic? No, beg your pardon, it's just some cars inside the pit lane. Looks as though he's onto the brakes, though he might just be abandoning this lap. You can see the difference in speed that he's taking, just building up a little bit of distance, it seems, from him and somebody else, and he's going to put himself right back into the pits with that front end smash. Look over to Lecky though, as he's doing Monaco drift into turn 3. That is certainly not the quickest way to go around, but it is definitely one of the most fun. Really getting some serious slide in what is a front wheel drive car, remember folks. So we have 5 minutes remaining inside the final qualification of the season here in the touring cars. Just being able to bring up the YouTube chats for this one. Giacomo's asking me who my pick for the winner is. Well, I've got to say it's a pretty tight one to call. After watching them in practice, it's been real close. I think I'm gonna have to go with Pro Fubby, considering consistency. I've not seen him make many mistakes, where I have seen plenty of mistakes from the console, as we see Lecky there making one. Wadge I've also seen making a couple of mistakes. Saw him wreck it at Tabac. I've also seen him make a mistake on the exit of Piscine, and I think perhaps it's just so easy to make a mistake as we join Wadge just coming through the Novelle chicane. I think maybe just the consistency isn't quite there, so I am putting it on Pro Fubby. He's going to want a very strong finish to the end of his season. But that being said, even in the best circumstances, without any cars on track, trying to take one of these touring cars around here for 45 minutes to not make a mistake is a pretty tall order. Not too sure what the tyres are like in terms of tyre wear. I can imagine it's actually not too bad. You're generally not getting up to some of the speeds that we've seen in some of the other circuits. But it certainly is going to be plenty of pit stops for damage. And what a lap we've just seen there from Wadge. Maybe I'm going to eat my words. Comes in with a 137.819, goes straight back to the pits, and I think he's pretty certain that is job done. 138.138 is his closest rival in the form of Pro Fubby. We're now on board, or tracking around with Pro Fubby, just as he starts his entrance into the tunnel. And that'll give him plenty of motivation to try and push it even further. Let's see what he can do. The braking zones that I noticed, in fact, he's got 1/10 quicker so far around. He's got a couple of tenths to make up. Oh, he just makes a bit of a collision on his way through to back with the wall. That's going to slow him down, and that is probably that tenth that he's just made up gone in an instant. It's the famous Raskas, and you can see the difference in speed between the BMW and the front wheel drive Renault Megane through that particular corner. That is just the benefits of rear wheel drive over the front wheel drive. Gets you around that corner even quicker, and there we can see Pro Fubby's lap is a little bit slower, and that will be through that contact through to back. Going to have at least 2 more laps in this one. He has only got 4 litres worth of fuel though, so that's going to be pretty tricky to try and get 2 laps out of, if my reading's correct. So whilst you now know my predictions, and Wadge is doing his best to prove them wrong, please let me know your predictions for this one. Also, if you've been joining us for any of the other championships, whilst I've got your audience, I'd love to know what your predictions are for the rest of those. I can see that Snarling Bongo's in there. I'm sure he's got some pretty strong predictions for the GT1s, especially coming up to Imola. He's been having an absolutely torrid season, unfortunately, in the GT1s. Sure, he'll be trying to make amends and maybe get bragging rights, at least for one race, ahead of his good mate with Linga Bazinga. 1 minute remaining inside this session. Wadge still sits on pole position. Pro Fubby in second. The console has now got himself up into 3rd place above Lecky. Lecky is since in the pits, so that is his session done, along with Spankmeyer and Jack de Menzies. Boot Jumbo still out, currently sat in 7th place ahead of Harry, with Alaxon in 9th. That Mercedes obviously very consistent, but consistently slow it seems. Wardy in 10th place. He'll be running a very similar setup to his good mate and teammate with Spankmeyer in 5th, and Pro Fubby drags that one out of the bag. Look at that for a lap. Goes 13 tenths quicker than Wadge in that one. Sorry, 13 hundredths quicker. Just let me correct myself. And what an absolute stonker from Pro Fubby. I think that has got to be enough to pick up the rather crucial bonus point to make it even more difficult for him to basically lose this championship. Goonies never say die though. Anything can happen, and if it's going to happen in any track of this season, it's going to be this one inside the FMTCC. Qualifying is now complete though, so drivers will be finishing up the laps. Looks as though Wadge might just be on. No, perhaps not. I thought he might have just crossed the line, so we'll go over to Lecky. Don't think Lecky's quite got the pace to try and get into those 137s, but I've been proven wrong a couple of times just inside this session, so we'll see what he can do. Does look as though he's running with race pace at the moment, race fuel should I say, just to try and get himself used to the balance of that car. Currently rocking 54 litres worth of fuel, Lecky. That's going to make braking coming down into Novell very difficult indeed. Looks as though very little lockup, rides the curbs like a pro. And the front end just wanted to bite on him a little bit there, it seems. Here's the final car out on track, so he's going to make use of this little bit of extra time. And after a very mixed season, he is looking to try and put his best foot forward, especially in the run-up to Season 2. We will, of course, have our special event, our springtime special event, which will be announced soon. And to make sure you don't miss any of the announcements, of course, be sure to follow us on your preferred social media choice, or stick it on all of them. You know, you can never have too much Flux Motorsport in your life. We are, of course, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So add on your preferred one. But let's have a little run through our grid today. Pro Fubby does take that pole position, does get that bonus point, which separates him and Wadge by 1 extra point. Wadge does finish in 2nd place though. Looks as though he might have a grid place penalty, so he could come out in 3rd. I'm not sure whether or not that's already being served. I don't think it is. The console in 3rd position ahead of Lecky 2000, who makes up the 2nd place on the 2nd row. Spankmeyer in 5th with Jack Menzies in 6th. Booth Jumbo in 7th with Harry trailing him. Then Alaxon in 9th place in that AMG with Wardy in 10th. Kovkarl does enough for 11th place. Green Gaming in 12th with Porscheman in 13th. Old Smokey in 14th. And then me sat right there. So it looks as though Old Smokey didn't set a lap and got a 3-place grid penalty. Not sure how he's managed that. Speeding in the pit lane is going to be very, very tricky indeed, considering where you actually enter. So we'll wait and see. But 2 minutes worth of setup time now begins. Whilst we go through that, let me just get myself onto the grid. Let's have a little run through and reminder of the liveries that you're going to be chasing today. Pro Fubby out there in the number 55 eMochi Renault Megane. The console in the number 76 Chevelle BMW 320. Wadge in the number 25 Hakkeen Renault Megane, with Lecky in the number 2 Momo Corsa Renault Megane right behind. Spankmeyer is rocking the number 67 SRT, with Jack Menzies in the number 4 Zavima. Booth Jumbo is in the number 1 Momo course, with Harry also taking up one of the I think it might be a Hakkeen, is it, or a Cavoul? I beg your pardon, it's a Cavoul, that one. Not too sure on the number, but he is coming in as a reserve. Alaxon is in the AMG. It's number 30 in the Dexburn livery. Wardy in the number 67 SRT. Kovkarl in that distinctive number 20 PCCF. Green Gaming in the number 87 Monster Energy livery. Porscheman rocking another Cavoul. And then Old Smokey still in the number 6 Activision livery, making up the back of the grid. So 30 seconds remaining inside the Tinker Time. Then we're going to get this race underway. It's going to be eyes down, look into turn one. It's going to be very, very tight indeed. And you're going to have a great view of it as they come past the camera here around Monaco. Looks as though we're now ready for the lights. Keep your eye out. Big start from the BMW. That is going to be a huge benefit for the console. Lights are done and away we go. Good start from the BMW. Did look as though Profubbi just took a little bit of a breath. Snoozed and lost there, it seems, as we come down through turn one. Let's make sure that we're avoiding all contact. Does look as though Jack de Menzies and Spankmeyer just come together a little bit, but everybody through turn one relatively unscathed. Looks as though Profubbi's now launching an attack on the console with the inside line, and now it looks as though he's going to have to run a little bit deep, it seems. Yep, and he's managed to keep hold of that first place. Lecky, meanwhile, is sniffing all over the back of Profubbi. Let's have a look what comes down into turn 6. Looks as though Spankmeyer just locking up the brakes. I thought he was going to come into the back of Wadge there, just managing to narrowly avoid. And once again, Profubbi launching an attack on the console, able to carry so much speed, it seems, through that downhill section. Let's see whether or not that BMW pulls away through the tunnel. It's not too much. Into the braking, then into Novell. Looks as though Profubbi having a little look up the inside, thinks better of it, ducks back into second, and we're going to see plenty of that with very minimal overtaking positions unless a mistake is made. So the console just needs to maybe keep his head on his shoulders now and make sure that he keeps his nose clean. I just saw a big contact there in the background. Who was it? Looks as though Harry taken out with Kovkarl. I think Porsche Man's also got wrapped up in it, and it looks as though Green Gaming might well be slowing down. Either that or he's got some serious damage. So back over to our race leaders. The console still keeping hold of this one. Profubbi in second, Lecky still in third, but only just. He's currently being challenged by Wadge around the outside, it seems. Oh, and that's just allowed Spankmeyer to get right involved as the two battle, get defensive. Spankmeyer's got right up into the exhaust pipes of Wadge, it seems. Lecky just locking up, getting that rear end a little bit too loose, and that's going to allow Jack de Menzies coming through. Jack de Menzies just clips on to the inside of that barrier, and I can imagine that there's already some rather wobbly suspension parts in some of these Renault Meganes already. There we can see the console still leading. Profubbi still not able to get past, but we've got a big split away here from Jack de Menzies down to 7th place with Booth Jumbo. A bit of a gap opening up with that. Somehow Green Gaming, I was going to say he was 2 minutes behind the split of the leader. I don't think that was correct. Maybe he's just been into the pits. Perhaps I've just missed it. I doubt he would have been in the pits. I can imagine if he's gone in for damage, he would have been in for a lot longer. Oh, and there's a big knock from Wadge into the side of Spankmeyer. He manages to get away with it relatively unscathed. Keeps his... Oh, and Wadge hits the rear of Spankmeyer again. Almost takes out Lecky. Oh, it's nail-biting stuff, this. My word, it's going to be very tricky for any of these drivers to make a pass. Looks as though Wadge's car has got a little bit loose, and that's leaving the door right open for both Lecky and Jack de Menzies. Meanwhile, Profubbi has taken the lead. Did just miss that one. I was too busy focusing on the cars behind, but the console now within half a second of the race leader. Quite a few cars just clipping the outside of the barrier as they come through San Devote. Profubbi leads the race, the championship leader, the race leader, and the pole sitter. Console's going to really struggle now to try and keep the pace of Profubbi. I did mention before his consistency is almost unreal, and the Console's BMW will want to get a little bit tail happy, maybe make a couple of collisions with those barriers at points that he doesn't want it. Through the tunnel, let's see where that gap's coming up, and we have got a bit of a battle going on bit further behind. Looks as though Al Axon's about to be challenged by Harry, it seems. The AMG of Al Axon. We're down into the braking zone for the Novell chicane. Looks as though the Renault Megane of Harry was really braking pretty sharply there. He made up all sorts of time. Come through to the back, and let's see how well poised that AMG is. I've got some experience racing in the touring cars inside this AMG myself, and it does have a lot more turning, it seems, than the Renault. It just looks as though it's struggling to try and get that power back down out the end of the corner. No passes to be made there yet, though. We'll keep our eye out on the positions. Let's get back over to the race leader. Certainly got a little bit closer. Pro Fubby now leading by 0.3 of a second. Spankmeyer, meanwhile, got the fastest lap. That last lap around 1:39.079 is the fastest lap so far in this race. And the console loses his rear end. Luckily avoids Spankmeyer, but that is definitely going to be a little bit of rear end damage somewhere, at least on the aero. Our aero isn't really a key factor in these rather slow touring cars as it would be for some of the open wheelers, but it's certainly going to play a factor. Meanwhile, though, look how close he's been able to get up to the back of Pro Fubby. Pro Fubby's going to have his elbows well and truly out. Looks as though he's going to hold on to the outside lane, which is the optimum entry for Novell. Don't want to get yourself up onto the inside unless you know that you can make a pass and perhaps outbrake the person ahead of you. That battle going on behind them with Spankmeyer and Wadge is looking pretty tasty in itself as well. Let's jump onto the onboard with Wadge. Let's have a look at what they're experiencing as we come through Passim and Lewis Chiron entry. Looks as though he's going to have a little look up the inside here into Raskas, and he might well have just got that one done, Wadge. He has indeed. Moves up into third place ahead of Spankmeyer. Just makes a little collision, I think, with the left-hand side. You see just a little flash of acknowledgement. I think a bit of a twitchy bum moment for both of those cars in third and fourth position, but they both got through it relatively unscathed. Meanwhile, that battle for first position is still well and truly on between Pro Fubby and the console. Last lap around, looks as though the console was losing out by about 3/10. Meanwhile, in that last lap, did set the fastest Sector 1 time of the day with a 28.499. It just looks as though we lost it a little bit later on. Let's have a look at what's happened to Lecky. He was right up there with the front runners. He's since fallen back behind, and he's now racing with his teammate with the sixth place of Booth Jumbo. That is Jack de Menzies that you can see ahead. That's Al Axon and Harry in tow. 37 minutes remaining inside this race, so only 8 minutes gone, and already so much action. It's certainly not going to stop here as well. There's definitely a lot more to come. Jump back over to our leaders. You can see there that the console has actually lost a fair bit of ground, it seems, on the back of Pro Fubby. Lost around about 2/10 this lap. Can't see any additional scuffs. No raised bonnet or anything, so perhaps maybe just a little bit of speed scrubbed off. He's since made that up through Raskas though, and the final couple of turns, and he's now back within half a second of the championship leader. It's all for pride for the console. He's not going to be in with a shout of a championship victory. Instead, he will be able to get himself up into the top 3 and therefore make himself automatic for qualification into next season's championship. Of course, in all of our championships, the top 3 drivers will automatically progress should they want the seat. So they are definitely fighting for something, not just the championship crown. Pro Fubby's doing a very good job here though of keeping himself consistent, currently running in pretty much the 140s, and the very low 140s at that, consistently lap after lap. Console meanwhile, that last lap around 143.947, so as you can see there on your board, quite a bit off the pace. Since been able to make it up, so I don't think this one's going to be quite as quick from Profubby, and you can see that little lock up on the left hand side. I think front and rear tyres there just letting off a little bit of steam. So Lecky is still holding on to the back of Booth Jumbo, but it's Profubby with the console in second, Wadge in third, Spankmeyer in fourth, Jack Demenzies in fifth place with Booth Jumbo in sixth, Lecky in seventh, Alaxin in eighth, Harry in ninth, Wardy in 10th, Kovkarl 11th, Porsche Man in 12th, Green Gaming in 13th, and Old Smoky has since left the grid once again on a mare of an end to a season. I think ever since I said that he's looks as though he's turning it around. Ooh, big wobble there from the console. Just manages to keep it together on the run up the hill. But huge wobble. I thought he was going wallwards there at relative speed. Front end collision for that BMW will almost be curtains. As soon as he does any serious damage to that front suspension, it's going to be all over the place. But it's certainly given a bit of breathing room to Profubby. He's now sat about a second above the console. Wadge is within touching distance. Looks as though Wadge has been able to make up, or at least maintain his gap so far. He is lapping a little bit slower than the front two runners, but he's still keeping there or thereabouts. In fact, with a commentator's curse again, looks as though he's just slipped away a little bit, and since then Spankmeyer is now closing right up on him. Just focus on them as they come out of the tunnel into the chicane. You can see, interesting, Spankmeyer going for the almost to try and cut the chicane as much as possible, taking a bit of a risk with that line. If you catch the inside of that corner into the barrier, it's going to do some serious damage to the front end and probably spit you out to the other side of Nivelle. Put you into the runoff where we've famously seen some pretty majestic accidents over the years in the prestigious Open Wheel Championship. Looks as though Wadge is coming in. I don't think that's going to be for damage repairs. Let's have a look. He must be changing his tyres surely, but his car looks absolutely straight, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Must just be a change of tyres, and it's a definite bold strategy. It's going to put him right down the grid. I do wonder, because I wouldn't expect the tyres to go this quickly, although we do run it on accelerated tyre wear settings, to only see Wadge coming in. I wonder whether or not he's made a bit of a mistake and maybe running with a qualifying setup. Perhaps his radiator's closed, and that might not be the first time that we see him coming into the pits today. Engine temperatures might well be through the roof. It's currently pretty clear here. We have just got a little bit of wash away cloud around the port of Monaco throughout the session. You can see there Wadge is now just leaving the pits. He's going to be leaving the pits in 12th position, so it was a real painful pit stop, that one. Spankmeyer is since away and clear in third position. He's got 6 seconds lead to Jack Demenzies in fourth. Booth Jumbo is around about 5 seconds behind that. He's since been able to build up a bit of a gap between himself and Lecky. Lecky now sitting 2 seconds behind Booth. Alaxin's not too far away from the back of Lecky, actually, around about a second to the money. And we'll keep a little eye on that, see whether or not those two are going to be getting door to door, but we'll focus for now on the race leader. No other close quarter action to speak of out on track at the moment, as we're just coming through the first third of this race. Lap 9 of the Monaco GP circuit, aka the Azure Coast circuit. When it comes to Project Cars 2, do hope that we're not going to be removed for copyright infringement, but we are talking, of course, about a principality. Surely they're not going to do us for that. Profubby looks as though his practice has paid off. He's lapping very consistent. Looks as though he's got a little bit of pace whenever he needs to turn it on as well. He's been able to now build up almost a 2-second lead to the console. Let's have a look at what's going on back here between Booth Jumbo and Lecky. Lecky has since been able to get himself up to the back of Booth Jumbo as we jump into the cockpit now of Lecky. It's Momo Course versus Momo Course. Hard and into the brakes, and they're going to be very hard into the brakes again. I wonder if we're going to see a difference in line. Both of them look as though they're opted in for that sort of conventional line. It's definitely going to be best in the front wheel drive, almost middle in the track and just clipping the apex on entry. Oh, that's a big knock for Lecky. Don't want many of those. Those barriers are pretty unforgiving, and that's going to be all of that momentum lost as they come through the tunnel. See that front bumper now hanging off. That's probably going to be a little bit of suspension damage as well. That could have been a costly mistake from Lecky there. See how the front end starts to behave around to back. Looks as though it's all right, you know. I'm not seeing any major understeer problems. Turns 17 and 18 are going to be absolute telltale signs of if he really has done himself some damage. We might well see a little bit more damage picked up if it is particularly bad. Or just a little dink. Looked as though he caught it all with the door, and looks as though we've lost yet another driver. I think that might be Wajid. Oh no, it's not. Wajid's still in it. Who have we lost here? Just running through my list pretty quickly. We've definitely lost somebody. I'll try and get back to you with that information. Not too sure who's gone just yet. I'll work my way through my course notes and try and keep you posted. But it's Pro Fubby leading by 1.6 seconds to the console. Spackmeyer in third, Jack Menzies in fourth, Booth Jumbo in fifth, Lecky in sixth, and Spackmeyer. Oh no, beg your pardon, Spackmeyer in third. What was I going to say then? Wardy in ninth, beg your pardon. Kovkarl in 10th place, Waj in 11th, Green Gaming in 12th, and it was Porsche Man indeed. Thank you very much, little god. I just got there anyway, but yeah, Porsche Man looks as though he's out of the race. Green Gaming meanwhile is inside the pits, and that's going to well, definitely going to be for damage repairs once again. Currently sitting a good amount, around about 1 minute behind the race leader here. Could be interesting if he drops himself out. He might have to really slow his pace down if he comes out in front of the race leaders. In fact, he doesn't. He comes out just ahead of Lecky and Booth Jumbo. That is the Monster Energy. He's got a perfect place to move aside here under the blue flags, and that is fortunate, because once you get into the second half of this circuit, it can be very hard indeed to try and let one of the leading cars through. Harry is also into the pit, so perhaps it's let's have a look at the front of his car. It looks as though it was pretty wrecked, so that does look as though it could well be for damage. Got a bit of a battle continuing on with Lecky and Booth Jumbo. Also a battle out on track between the 9th place of Kovkarl and the 10th place of Waj. Waj obviously has plenty of pace. He's going to have to work his way back up through the grid. Let's have a look whether or not he can get through relatively easy. That is Waj in the blue and white liveried car that has just made that pass now on Kovkarl. Kovkarl clearly carrying a little bit of damage. And Waj now has Wardy to try and get past. Wardy won't be making this easy for him. He is lapping around about 6 seconds slower, but it is a race for position. There is no obligation to let that driver through. And I know if I was out on track, I'd be making it as difficult but fair as possible. And remember, folks, if you're watching this for the first time and you want to get yourselves involved for Season 2 as we get into the off-season, then head on over to our website to get joined up. It is, of course, www.fluxmotorsport.com. You'll find all the information out on there. The website did absolutely crap its pants a couple of weeks back. We're just about getting back online now, so please excuse some of the work in progress, but you will be able to find the links for the Discord as well as the information that we're running. And Kovkarl makes a mistake It looked as though it was midway through the corner of Raskas. It looked as though he'd done all of the hard work, and then on the relatively easy bit just seems to make a mistake and picks up 2 of the barriers. It's going to be even more damage now, and Kovkol struggling in 10th position. So if you are looking to join the championship, now is the join the community, now is the time to do it. We will be having a break week, and then we'll be announcing our special event very shortly. So if you want to get yourself evaluated in time to get joined up for that special event, now is the time to do it, folks. Remember that website, and also if you want to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the action for the final week of the season or going into next season, then be sure to hit that subscribe button as well as the bell icon to make sure that you get notification whenever one of our races goes online. Would just advise though, as we are running a transatlantic championship season here, you might want to have do not disturb mode set on your phone just so that you're not getting pings when the American championships do kick off if you're an EU watcher. Profubby now has a commanding lead though. Back to the race at hand, 2.8 seconds on the console. Looks as though the console, there he is, just in view, and he's currently, I think that might be Harry that's behind him. He is of course a lap down, but looks as though Harry has lost all of his pace. 147's that last lap around. So Spankmeyer is about 11 seconds behind the console. Tottenham Menzies is unable to make any gains on Spankmeyer. There is about 3 seconds difference in their lap times at the moment, but look at the lap times between 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. All very, very close indeed for the 1 minute 43 club. And that means that there's going to be very little gain or loss between them, provided that there aren't any mistakes. It does look as though the closest gap that we've got on circuit at the moment is between Booth Jumbo and Lecky. We'll flick over to them now. Both of the Momo courses just coming through Novell. And very equally matched as well, it seems. Just bringing up the fastest lap information of the race so far. It is currently the bonus point allocated to Wadge at present. It is going to be in vain though, so as we stand at the moment, because of the cars that have left the circuit, all Profubby needs to do is finish this race. He could finish it in 12th place, he will still win the championship, and that relies heavily on Wadge finishing in 2nd place. Wadge is currently 8th and he's running damn quick, but he is 8 seconds away from the back of Val Axon in 7th place at the moment, so he's got a long way to go and definitely out of touch from the race leader. Also, that being said, doesn't look as though Profubby is going to falter. We jump back over to him now. You see that car, little bit of panel gap showing up on the front left hand side of that Renault Megane, but other than that, it's almost showroom quality. I don't think we've seen a panel hanging off Profubby this season. Prove me wrong though, let me know where we may have seen a mistake, and almost a bit of commentator's curse there. Just coming out of the back end of Pissine into turn 15 and just on a little bit of a wobble. Still running quick though. Let's have a look what this latest lap is from Profubby. Comes across the line just 8 tenths slower than the one that preceded it. Still lapping quicker than the console though. Looks as though the console is just starting to lose a bit of pace relatively consistently. That could be down to tyre wear, or could be down to those little knocks that have been picked up here and there. Wadge meanwhile 138.820 that last lap around. That's not the fastest that we've seen, but it's not too far away, and he's really throwing laps down now. He's just 5 seconds or so off the back of Al Axon, and it's closing pretty heavily. have a look at some of our lower drivers. Let's have a look at Wardy, see how he's doing. That SRT looks absolutely battered. Still got its front bumper though, which is more than can be said for perhaps some of the cars on track. I'm pretty sure I saw a front bumper knocking about somewhere on the circuit earlier on. Wardy is still in touch with Kovkar though. Kovkar's car heavily bruised as well, as we saw those couple of bumps. Might well have been Kovkar's bumper that I saw. No, he's still got his bumper on as well, but both of them with a bit of a wobbly tooth it seems. Lapping very similar times at the moment. Wardy around about half a second off the pace of Kovkar at the moment. We'll keep our eyes peeled on that one. Battle between Booth Jumbo and Lecky continues on as they just come through the tunnel. Lecky has just lost a little bit it seems, but Booth Jumbo has come in with a really strong impact since joining this championship just a couple of races ago. Definitely one to look out for if we see him in the touring cars next season. Be meticulously working on his setups, I can imagine, in the off season. I want to try and put his best foot forward should he sign up for the touring cars going ahead, and that's if he gets a spot as well. Because he was such a latecomer, he's not been able to make an impact in terms of the championship standings table. So he is right down in the bottom of the standings on 23 points. As I said, got a 5th place finish to earn himself those 25 points, so not a bad effort at all last week at Catalonia, with pretty minimal practice as well, it should be said. Looks as though Wadge has just made his way past Al Axon with relative ease. To be honest, I can imagine that Al just moved alongside. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to keep the pace, probably slow himself down a little bit more whilst trying to battle him. That is Green Gaming that's coming up ahead. That will be a blue flag and a move aside as soon as possible. But Wadge is absolutely gunning it. Not quite as quick that last time around, but he did have a little bit of traffic ahead of him. Still holding on to the fastest lap of the race so far though. And Kovkar looks as though enough is enough. The damage to that PCCF just turning up a little bit too much, and that's going to see him into the pits and potentially fall down into last place, depending on whether or not this is going to be Green Gaming unlapping himself around him. Little flash of the lights there with acknowledgement for Wadge for Green Gaming moving out of the way in a safe space. He's going to have to do it yet again when it comes to Al Axon though, I think. It's Pro Fubby leading the race, the console in 2nd, Spankmeyer in 3rd, Jack Menzies in 4th, Booth Jumbo 5th ahead of Lecky 2006. Then this man that we're currently tracking around in the form of Wadge, he will be Josh next season, I promise you. I think he's quite warm to the nickname that he got, just because he was a late joiner to the championship for the first race, and I didn't quite understand his name when I first looked at it. Soon later saw it's WA Josh G. But Wadge has done very well indeed on this recovery drive. Looks as though he's got the sort of pace to maybe pick off. Could well be Booth Jumbo, you know. Not going to hedge my bets too far, but he's certainly got the pace. Not 2 seconds a lap quicker, but he might be able to, now that he's in some free air, get back into those 138s, and that's going to bring him 4 seconds a lap quicker with 16 minutes to go. Al Axon's in 8th place. I don't think he's having any regrets in choosing his Merc A45. His season was absolutely calamitous before this point, so I think he's just dipping his toe into something new, and why the hell not. Wardy in 9th place at the moment, ahead of Harry after Harry's lengthy pit stop. Kovkar in 11th, he still remains a lap ahead of Green Gaming, who looks as though he's quite a few laps down from the race leader. 2 laps I think it's about to be, as Pro Fubby is just coming to the end, I think, of lap 18. Oh no, just at the start of lap 18, I beg your pardon. Oh, Lecky's binned it. Where's he binned it? That looks as though it's at it's on turn 11 actually, coming out of the chicane. Has he got himself moving again? He has. He's minus a bonnet. He's got a massive crack to his windscreen, and that bumper He's definitely hanging off, but getting it all sorts of wrong. We can see your cylinders lecky. It looks as though Kovkar's done the same. He's also lost his bonnet. And Kovkar's race here goes from bad to worse, it seems. Lecky now is definitely going to be into the pits, you can tell. Look at the amount of understeer that he's getting. He's hitting every single wall, although he's missed the pit lane entrance. He's going to stick this one out, you know. I think he's going to have to stick it out for 15 minutes if he's playing that brave. Kovkar, meanwhile, does return into the pits for the second time in just a couple of laps as well. So that is Alaxon that you can see just going past, then Lecky 2000, and then it looks as though it's Green Gaming in the background. So these three drivers out on different laps, I believe. Oh no, sorry, I beg your pardon. Alaxon is just 2 seconds ahead of Lecky. Lecky, let's have a look at his sector times. He's actually only 0.2 slower in the first sector there. Oh no, beg your pardon, it's just updated. 0.8 slower than Alaxon, so maybe it isn't done for yet. He'd definitely lose a lot more time inside the pit lane getting those damage repairs. Let's see, provided that car, I mean, look how twitchy it was there. Just narrowly avoiding the wall on the outside of Portier. He looks as though he's having to rack this one around just to try and keep it in a straight line. He's now definitely losing extra bits of time. Looks as though this was where he lost it, off the back of the chicane last time. I'm wondering whether or not he just got a bit of a fishtail going on, and then that's what's caused him to bin it into the wall, because it did look as though his right hand side was on the right hand side wall, which usually suggests that he's been chewed up and spat out. But a few more little wall contacts there. A little bit of understeer is definitely going to be at play inside Lecky's Renault Megane at the moment. Looks as though he's doing very well to try and contain it. 13 minutes and 40 seconds remaining inside the final race of the FMTCC for what has been a fantastic season all round. Just pulling up the stats here, and I'll present them to you at the moment. But Pro Fubby has definitely made a strong impact in his first season in a Flux Motorsport touring. Flux Motorsport Championship. He's come in, and I wouldn't say that he's dominated. It was very hit and miss in the opening couple of races, but he's certainly dominated the second half of the season. We've seen so many triple crowns coming in. And just pulling up the stats. Let's have a look. Pro Fubby has had 3 first place finishes, 2 second place finishes, and 2 third place finishes so far. 6 podiums out of the lot of them. He's only finished outside of the podium once. In that time, he's had 4 pole positions, 3 fastest laps. It's actually now 5 pole positions. Looks as though he might just miss out on the fastest lap, but there's still 12 minutes to try and change all of that. And that's been enough to get him a pretty comfortable lead. Not quite mathematically secure in the championship before the final race, but certainly making it almost impossible to lose out on. Since then, after we've had a couple of retirements, it now is mathematically impossible unless he gets a disconnection or rage quits out of this race, which I can't see him doing. He's got 6.7 seconds lead to the console at the moment. He's flying pretty comfortably with pretty consistent laps, currently lapping 141.7. I think that's the tyres just starting to let go, and probably the added benefit of Wadge there. That's why he's able to set those 139s. Kovkar, meanwhile, is in for a very lengthy pit stop indeed. Is he going to lose out to that? Yep, he is. Just called it at the very right time. I was going to say lose out to that final position, or that final 11th place position before your last. He's going to be first of the winners now. I'm afraid he's first of the losers. Kovkar drops down into 12th position, and I think he's still in the pits, which is going to mean that he's going to have a mountain to climb to try and claw that one back in the final 11 minutes of this race. Back over to our race leader. Let's have a look on the map actually. Let's see where he's at in relation to all the other cars. Looks as though he's pretty much home clear. Nobody within touching distance. In fact, nobody within almost a quarter of a lap, I'd say. And showing once again a dominant force inside the touring cars. I'm sure he'd love to try and get that fastest lap. We might just see him really push it towards the end. It is still being held by Wadge at the moment. That 138.601. He's actually gone quicker since I last mentioned it. Let's have a little look actually, which we haven't checked so far, on any penalties. I was expecting some, because barriers will provide you with a penalty for this. Profubby has kept his nose clean, as has Wadge, as has Green Gaming. The rest of the grid currently having at least 1 second's worth of penalty. So very tricky circuit this to get right. It's even trickier in an open wheel, where any of those little collisions with the barriers will cost you a lot more than a time penalty. Usually cost you a front wing or a wheel. But time penalties are being issued by the race director. That looks as though that's Lecky's front bumper, and Profubby there doing the decent thing, clearing off the track for all the cars behind him. Going to be a nice souvenir for one of those fans at the side of the course. Now Profubby's time is dropping away. Luckily the cars behind him, the time is also dropping away. Lecky's about to come under blue flags. Got some serious weight saving going on with that Renault Megane ahead. Missing a bonnet, a bumper. He's missing his rear bumper as well. He moves along to the side. Nope, still got his rear bumper just about. He's got another wobbly tooth on the rear as well. You can see there Profubby 1.137 slower than his quickest lap delta, and that's just in the first sector. So this is really starting to slow down now as the tyres begin to get more and more worn. I think the job is almost done though. He's not losing that much time to the console. The console's starting to claw it back 0.6 a second quicker that last lap around. That's not going to be enough in the remaining 9 minutes of this race to be able to challenge for pole position for the race victory, should I say. And when we get down to the checkered flag, we'll give a little bit of bragging rights. I think the bragging rights really for the season are all Profubby's. It's been an absolutely epic drive. Not currently competing in any other championships. We'll see what happens come next season, but if he's as quick in any of the other car classes as he is in a touring car, the rest of the field better watch out. 8 minutes now remaining. That's going to work out to around about 5 or 6 laps. Wait and see though, because the pace is slowing right down. Looks as though we've lost Kovkar as well. We're down to 11 people out on track at the moment. Lecky's also at risk of coming under challenge from Green Gaming, depending on how long it takes them to repair that Renault Megane. Lecky there just deciding that enough's enough, or maybe he had another big bang and that was just too much for him. So Profubby now approaching the rear of Green Gaming. Green Gaming moves alongside on the entrance to the tunnel. It's back under, and a little flash of the night lights in acknowledgement there from Profubby. Lecky's still in the pits. Green Gaming having a little bit of a wobble though. Don't know what caused that. But he's going to crash on the exit out of the tunnel. Just avoids it. We've got a very late challenge going on here for 8th place. We'll flip over to that briefly. It's Wardy ahead of Harry at the moment. Wardy in the yellow, black and red SRT. Harry in that white and black Cavoul. Just been able to read Flatpack's comment there, as we see Wardy there making a little mistake, and that's allowed Harry to come on through into 8th position. Flatpack's been a featured driver in a couple of races for this season on the reserve list, loves a touring car as well, currently watching tucked away in his Premier Inn out on work duties, and he says it's fantastic racing, best race to watch of the season. He's glad that he's not in it. I think that you'd have secretly enjoyed this one, Essex, to be honest. I'm sure this is your sort of bread and butter, getting wheel to wheel with a few touring cars. around what is a very challenging circuit. I think what's been a testament is that all of the accidents on track haven't really been from over pushing. It's all been, I think, the responsibility of the driver who's made the contact with the wall. A few drivers making very costly mistakes. It was always going to be the case. In fact, it's always the case in any race around Monaco. Your own worst enemy, sort of 9 times out of 10. Quite often a brief lapse in concentration, maybe a little bit of damage taken up, or maybe underestimating your fuel load and how that's going to affect your car quite often affects your entrance into a barrier. But I think the lads out on track have done very, very well indeed. I'm sure the stewards' inquiries will still come in on this one, but it's been a very clean championship all round. The lowest number of stewards' inquiries I think that we've ever had in a touring car championship, and the lowest amount for any of the Europe and Middle East championships that we've run this season. Now we've got another bit of a late surge on. Wadge has been able to get past Booth Jumbo, so he's exceeded my expectations. He's now coming up to the back of Jack de Menzies. Jack de Menzies will be clinging on for dear life for this 4th position. He is currently 3rd place in the championship, but a deep-seated rivalry. Oh, and a bit of a mistake. Both of them seem to clip the same little bit of barrier coming through the middle of Raskas, and it's just sent them both into a bit of a tailspin. I don't think there was collision from Wadge onto the back of Jack. I'm pretty sure I saw them just collect the barrier. High drama in the final 4 minutes then of race 8 here at the Monaco GP circuit, aka Azure if you're looking to try and assume me PC2. But yeah, high drama indeed. Jack de Menzies, I was just explaining, deep-seated rivalry with the console. It's very, very friendly indeed, but just having a look, trying to figure out the points deficit. Looks as though there's 7 points separating Jack de Menzies and the console. There's currently 5 points difference. So if Jack does lose this position, he will be tied for 3rd place with the console, and that does not give him the bragging rights that he wants. So Jack de Menzies will be holding on to this with dear life. I don't think he's going to be able to keep it, not based off the pace of Wadge. Wadge has a little look up the inside. That is brave indeed. He forces almost the contact there. There was no room for Jack de Menzies to go. Very brave indeed. You can see an angry flash of the lights from Jack de Menzies. The frustration is coming right out. He really wanted to keep hold of that position, but it's not to be, and that puts the console up into 3rd position for the championship. Jack de Menzies will fall back into 4th place. Let's have a look, where's Al Axon? Al Axon currently 7th place in the championship. He's going to gain 17 points, and that's going to push him up a position as well over Kovkarl. Oh, Jack de Menzies takes the position back from Wadge. High drama, 2 minutes worth of racing yet to go here at Monaco. Pro Fubby leading by 9.6 seconds to the console. Real wheel-to-wheel action here between the Jack de Menzies and Wadge. We jump on board with Wadge and let's just drop the interface. Let's get a good idea about what these two are seeing. I think that might well be Spankmeyer ahead of them, is it? No, sorry, I beg your pardon, it's Wardy. Wardy under the blue flags, and oh, bit of contact there, a bit too much contact as well. Wadge just trying to get his nose where it shouldn't be, and dicing with death it seems. As we track them through the tunnel, let's have a look at the timing board here. So Jack de Menzies has a 5-second penalty. Wadge doesn't have any, but that doesn't give him the right to relinquish the position. He can keep on pushing as much as he can, especially when any contact between the two, if it's a minor avoidable contact, resulting in a major loss of momentum and or line. That could well be a 5-second penalty granted, and therefore nullify Jack Menzies' 5-second penalty from the virtual race director. Through Raskas, and it looks as though Waj was much quicker through there. He's been able to close that gap right back up again, and we're now on to the final lap of the race, I do believe, depending on where Profubby is. These guys are 35 seconds behind the race leader. Don't want to quite leave them just yet. I'm just trying to track whereabouts it is. I think we might just be seeing Profubby just coming up through the tunnel. Let's have a look. Yep, just coming through the tunnel at the moment. There's Lecky ahead of him under blue flags once again. A couple of laps back, it seems. Profubby pretty much on a parade lap through this one. Jack Menzies still holding off Waj for 4th place. Keep your eye out on the cursor that I'm currently moving up and down. Oh, a little bit of a mistake there. That might have been the first one that I've seen all day from Profubby. The tiniest little knock just on the way through to back, and I don't think it's going to do anything at all to his race. He's now coming around the final couple of corners. But there we go. He is human after all, ladies and gents. It has been an absolutely stonking Monaco race 8 for Profubby. It's also been an amazing championship. Your new FMTCC champion crosses the line in 1st place, and very well done indeed. The console is quick behind him with Spankmeyer very close in tow as well. Waj looks as though he's just got the better of Jack Menzies in the final couple of corners. It's going right down to the wire. You can see Jack Menzies pushing hard there, makes a little bit of a contact on the way through into Pacine, and that's made him just drop back a little bit, maybe just pushing a little bit too hard. He also goes in a little bit too hot into Raskas, and it's not to be for him. Waj therefore takes 4th position. Great recovery drive considering he was last on the grid at one point. Jack Menzies comes across the line in 5th position. Booth Jumbo is in plenty of free space here. Had a massive battle with Lecky for long proportions of this. Lecky then maybe just picked up a little bit too much damage, but Booth Jumbo with now he's got a few scuffs on that Momo course, but it's still been a very, very tidy race for your 2nd time out in a touring car. Well done that man. 6th place for Booth Jumbo. Alaxon and his Dexburn AMG A45 are going to cross the line in 7th place. No amount of penalties is going to affect that. He's got a couple of seconds, actually. A minute and a couple of seconds to the 8th place of Harry, who's not going to be able to finish this one, I don't think. In fact, he's already come across the line. And that is it, ladies and gents. Everybody else has crossed the line. That is the race done for, the championship decided, and the season over here in the FMTCC. Profubby comes out with a victory along with the pole position. I think he's just missed out on the fastest lap, though. Just pulling up that data for you. He has indeed. Doesn't get the Triple Crown, but does get the championship, so I'm sure he won't be too bothered. The console finishes up in 2nd place, despite his 3-second penalty, with Spankmeyer finishing up in 3rd. I think the console saved by Spankmeyer's 3-second penalty, it seems. Waj does enough for 4th place in the end, ahead of Jack Menzies, who finishes up in 5th. Booth Jumbo in 6th, with Alaxon in 7th. Harry in 8th, and Wardy in 9th in the end. Lecky in 10th, with Green Gaming finishing up in 11th spot. And then Kovkarl, Old Smoky, both retired along with Porscheman early on. So thank you for joining us for what has been an awesome season all round. Congratulations once again to Profubby for your championship victory. And just to remind you, you'll be able to join us next up in the final week of the season for the GT1s at Imola. Join Lecky and McToasty live 8 PM UK time, around about 2 PM in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time. And from that, our final week of the season will continue on. Thank you very much again for joining us. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on any of the action, and as well you'll be able to catch up with any of the races that you might have missed throughout this one. Maybe you want to relive it either through the highlight videos that I put together through our media team, or perhaps the full-blown, full-fat race coverage. The choice is yours. Just go to our YouTube channel and you'll find all of the details there. And as well, to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the news and updates from the community or the championships, be sure to head on over to our social media channels. You'll find us, just search for Flux Motorsport and you will find them quite easily. Finally, if you want to join up ready for next season, don't forget that website. It's fluxmotorsport.com. You'll find a link on there to join the community. Just hit that button. You'll be presented with a Discord request. Discord's completely free no matter what device you're using, and you can pretty much use any electronic device to access it. It's nice and simple. Just fill in a couple of details once you hit the welcome screen, and then you'll be greeted by our staff team. Other than that, thank you very much for joining me. I've been Murphy, and I'll see you all again next season. Take care, everyone. Good night.